Your dad cannot teach you how to be this kind of man. Not because he failed you, but because nobody asked him to do this, to be this, right? I want you to think about the man who raised you, okay? Maybe it was your dad, maybe it was your uncle, maybe it was a grandfather, a coach. Maybe there was no consistent men in the picture at all, okay? Now, I want you to ask yourself, did that man, I want you to be honest, did that man model what it looks like to be emotionally present with his wife? Did he know how to sit with her feelings without fixing them or fleeing them? Did he lead the house with both strength and warmth? Was he an involved father, right? Who was also a passionate husband, who was also building something professionally while also knowing exactly who he was underneath all those roles? Look, for most of us, the answer is no, no, no. Maybe. Not because like our fathers were bad men. Most of them were good men, doing the best they could with what they had. But what they had was completely different blueprint, right? Their job was to provide and protect. That was the whole thing. Provide, protect, provide, protect. Show up, work hard, keep the lights on, don't leave. Okay? And then somewhere between their generation and our generation, the blueprint started to change. And I can't even say like it changed completely, right? Now you're expected to be the provider and the emotionally engaged partner and the present father and the household contributor and the spiritual leader and the man who has his own identity and his own purpose outside of all of it. And nobody handed us a manual. This is kind of one. Nobody sat down and said, hey, here's what it actually looks like. Here's how you hold all of it. Here is who you need to become to carry this well. You just got handed the role and were expected to figure it out. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, right? But you have been doing what men do. You have been trying harder, working more, pushing through, telling yourself the frustration and the exhaustion that you're feeling and the low grade feelings that you are somehow always falling short in at least one area of your life is just the cost of the game, right? Just the cost of the game. But I want to offer you something different today. I want you to think about this. You are not failing because you are weak. You're not falling short because you do not care enough. You are struggling because you're trying to be a man that history has never actually produced, right? History has never actually produced that man before, with no model, no roadmap, and no one who told you that the first step is not the doing more, it is the knowing who you are. So if you're open to it and you're still here listening, let's talk about it, okay? So let's talk about the blueprint that no longer exists. I think it's worth exploring. What I would love is for you to have something to write down, just words and or sentences, things that just triggers you, so that you can come back to it later. Okay, the word, the time, and I think it'll make this video a lot better for you. Okay, so let me give you some context because I think it genuinely helps to understand where this pressure comes from. Okay, so for most human, right? Or should I say for most of human history, the role inside of marriage were clearly divided, right? Men provided and protected, women managed the home and raised the children, okay? That was the deal. That was it, right? It was not fair by today's standard, right? It left women, kind of like feeling very, giving them very little agency and very little room. But it was clear. Everybody knew their lane. Then, in a span of about 50 years, everything shifted. Women entered the workforce, right? Financial independence changed the dynamic of like why women choose to be in a relationship, right? The conversation about um, emotional labor became mainstream. Be psychology started naming things that used to stay unnamed, right? The idea that that a man could be both strong and emotionally available stopped being seen as a contradiction, right? All of that is good, right? I believe that. The world needed to change and it did. Okay? But here's what nobody accounted for in that shift, okay? They didn't count that the men who were supposed to rise to meet these new expectations had been raised by men who had no idea that these expectations were coming. Zero, right? Like, your father was not teaching you how to be emotionally present because nobody taught him, right? So he was not modeling how to hold space for your mother's feelings um because he did not know that was part of the job, right? He was not showing you how to be passionately in love with his wife after 20 years of marriage while also building a business and raising kids, because that combination of things was not really the standard anyone held him to, right? That was not the standard he was held to. Like, he was doing what he was taught. And what he was taught was work hard, provide, don't complain, do not leave. So you watch that. You absorb that. And I'm not saying that there's not unicorn dads or dad that did it differently, because there's definitely are. I'm saying bigger picture, okay? So you absorb that as the template. And then you got married and started a family and then maybe started a business. And then suddenly the woman you love is telling you she needs more presence, more emotional depth, more partnership, more of you showing up in ways you were never shown how to show up. And instead of someone handing you a map, you just felt in the gap between who you are and who she needs you to be. And you internalize that gap as your personal failure. And guess what? It is not. It is a generational gap. Okay? And you are the first man in your line who is being asked to close that gap. And that is not a small thing. That is actually one of the most significant thing a man can do. But you cannot do it by just trying harder, right? Especially not by trying harder the old ways. You have to build something new. And that something new starts with the understanding, right, of, calling me, the understanding of who you actually are and what you ask to become. Okay, so what is actually being asked of you now? Let's talk about that, because it's important for you to actually know exactly what's being asked of you and name it. So again, pen and paper, if you can write it, write it. I think it's worth doing. Okay, so let me name the expectations as clearly as I can, because I think a lot of men are carrying them without ever having them laid out. That's why I think like writing them makes sense. Okay, come back to the video. Okay, so let me lay them out. One, you're expected to provide. I think that makes sense. Everybody knows, okay? This one has not gone anywhere. The financial pressure on men in marriage, especially married fathers who are building something, is very real, right? The expectation that you show up and make things work financially has not softened, right? If anything, the cost of everything rising and the economy being what it is, like the weight of provision feels heavier than ever. Okay. So that one, provide, still there. Okay. Two, you are expected to be emotionally present, not just physically in the room, actually present, regulated, available, able to sit with your wife's emotion without shutting down, fixing, or fleeing, because then it'll be viewed as you're judging or you're defending. Able to name what is going on inside of you without either suppressing it or dumping it on her. This is an entire new skill, right? It's a new skill set. I know it was 100% for me. New skill set, right? That men have never been taught and never saw modeled, okay? Number 3, you are expected to be an involved father, not just the provider dad who shows up for big moments, the present dad, the one who knows what is going on in your kids' inner worlds, who does bedtime, who is emotionally safe for your children to bring real stuff to, the one they will remember not just as the men who paid for things, aka the wallet, right? But as the man who was actually there. The other one, you are expected to be a partner in the home. This is what I mean by that. The household, okay? The logistic, the mental load of managing a family. Generations ago, this was entirely the woman's domain, right? Now, there is a real expectation of shared contribution. And if you are running a business, on top of it, the math on your available time and energy gets very tight. And it gets very tight very fast. Okay? And underneath all of that, number 5, you are expected to know who you are, to have your own identity, your own purpose, your own interior life. That is not just a function of your role as a husband, a father, a provider, a leader. Because if you do not know who you are outside of those roles, guess what's going to happen? The moment any of them gets shaken or taken, the business falls, the marriage crumbles, or whatever else, you have nothing to stand on, right? So that is 5 things, 5 genuinely demanding, important things. And you are supposed to be doing all of them at the same time, at a high level. That's the expectation, with no manual. Well, also probably running a business or building a career and managing your own health, sleep, inner life. Is it any wonder why so many men feel like they are always behind? Like they're succeeding in one area and quietly dropping the ball in another, right? This is not a character flaw. This is an impossible standard with no instruction. And here is what I want you to hear. The answer is not to stop trying to meet it. The answer is not to stop trying to meet it. It is to understand which of these 5 is the foundation that makes all the others possible, aka the domino, right? The domino door, the domino, the first one, the one that makes everything else possible. Okay? So let's talk about the foundation nobody talks about, because I think this is important. And again, I'm going to say it again. Grab a pen and paper. Please write down, take notes, write the timestamp so you can come back to it, because I think this is very important to do so that you don't just have what I call mental masturbation. You get the information and you do nothing with it. Okay? So here's what I've learned. And it took me many years to see it. I'm about to be 40 in a couple of days, and I've been doing work with men a couple of years. Like, this is what I have, okay? All 5 of those expectations are real. All of them matter, but 4 of them are built on the top of one, okay? And here it is. You cannot be emotionally present if you do not know who, or should I say, if you do not know your own emotion, right? You cannot be a truly present father if you do not know what you want to pass on, because you have not figured it out, right? You haven't figured out what you believe. You cannot be a genuinely, right, or should I say, a genuine partner in your home if you are running on empty because you have no idea what actually fills you. And you cannot provide with peace instead of panic if your identity is entirely wrapped in the outcome, right? If it's entirely wrapped up in the outcome, no, you can't. So all of it eventually comes back to one question, okay? And the question is this: Do you know who you are? Not who you are as a husband, not who you are as a father, not who you are as a business partner or a leader, right? Who you are as a man. Like what you actually value, what actually scares you and why, what you believe about yourself underneath the performance. Like what kind of men you are becoming and what kind of men you are choosing not to be. Most men I talk to have not spent real time with these questions. And I don't say that as a criticism. I say because nobody told them to, right? They were told to work hard, provide, and not complain, right? They subscribe to the nobody cares about your feelings, right? What's going on here, the interior work was never part of the assignment, but it is the assignment now. So let me give you a real example of what this looks like, okay? Inside of a story. So, two men, both married, both with kids, both building businesses, okay? Both getting feedback from their wife that they are not emotionally enough, okay? The first man, he hears that and he tries harder. He asks more questions, he puts down his phone, right? He shows up, he shows up more to school events, but underneath all of it, he is still running the same programming he always has for years from an identity that is entirely built on output, okay? Output and achievement. And so his presence still has a quality of performance to it. He's doing the things, but he's not actually more known to his wife, okay? Because he does not fully know himself. Okay, let's go to the second man. The second man hears that and he gets curious, not defensive, not self critical, but genuinely curious. Like, why is presence hard for me? What am I afraid of when I slow down? What does it mean to me to be emotionally available, and why does part of me resist it? He start asking questions to himself in an honest way, right? Sitting with the honest answer when it comes out. And what comes out of it, or comes out of that process, is not just a better husband, it's a more grounded man, a man who starts leading from something real instead of just reacting to the pressure around him. Now, that man number two, his wife, she feels the difference because he's embodying something different. Not because he changed his behavior, but not because he changed his behavior first, but because something in him changed. That's what we talk about, like the embodiment, right? And that change made the behavior feel genuine instead of performed. That's the sequence most men get backward, right? They try to change the behavior before they actually change what's going on the inside, doing that interior work. And the behavior might improve for a while, but they do not stick because guess what? It's rooted in nothing. Identity first, then the behavior grows from that. Identity first, then the behavior grows from that. Okay? So I think it's worth talking about what does this inner work or interior work looks like. Okay? Again, pen and paper, write down whatever makes sense, whatever it's landing for you is very important. Write down the timestamp as well so you can come back to the video. Okay? So what does it actually look like in real life, okay? Because I know you're busy. I know you do not have unlimited hours to sit and journal the process in your childhood, okay? So you have a business to run, kids to raise, and a marriage to show up for, okay? So here's what I have for you, okay? And here's what I found that works. I want to compress that for you. One, start with one honest question a week, not a list of things, all right? Just one. Not a personal development program, just one question. And this question you can actually sit with in the car, on the run, in your think chair, if you have a think chair like me. right? And the 5 minutes before everybody wakes up. And the question is this: what am I actually afraid of right now? Not the surface stuff, not the business risk or the financial pressure. What is the fear underneath the fear? Like, where am I leading from obligation instead of conviction? Where in my marriage, my fathering, my business, am I doing things because I feel like I have to rather than because I genuinely believe in them? Who was I before I became all of these roles? Again, you get to pick one, but we can work on it. Okay. What did I care about? What lit me up? Is any of that still alive? What kind of men do I want my son to see, my daughters to expect from a man? Like, am I being that man right now? I know that these are not comfortable questions, but they are the question that builds the foundation, okay? Because here's the truth, okay? Here's the truth about the new expectations placed on men in marriages. Your wife does not need you to be perfect at all five of these things. She just needs you to be honest about where you are, that you're genuinely growing, real enough that she knows that she's actually married to you and not a performance of you. Your kids do not need a father who has it all figured out. They need a father who is present enough to be known and humble enough to keep learning. And you do not need to carry the shame of the generational gap you didn't create, right? You just need to decide. You need to decide that, you need to decide, that you are the man who closes it. Because otherwise, your kids will still have the same gap. Okay? So, questions, pick one, work it once a week. As I come to an end, because I know you got to go somewhere. Here's what I want to leave you with, okay? The man who raised you did the best he could with what he had. What he had was not enough to prepare you for what you are being asked to do now. That is not his fault. That is just the reality of a world that changed faster than the models could keep up with. Okay? But you are here now. I'm here now. I have 6 kids, 4 boys, 2 girls. You have kids, right? You are watching this. You are asking the questions. And that means you are already further along than you probably give yourself credit for. The men who figure this out, who actually become the emotionally present, identity rooted, fully engaged husband and father and leaders, look, they are not men who had it easy. They are men who decided the gap between who they were raised to be and who their family needs them to be was worth closing. Not because someone made them, but because they chose to. That is you. That is me. That is what we are doing. That is what you are doing by being in this conversation. So stop beating yourself up for not knowing something nobody taught you. And start getting curious about who you actually are. And let that be the foundation everything else is built on, stacked bricks by bricks by bricks. If this landed, drop the word foundation in the comments. And share this with the men who needs to hear it, right? Not everybody's going to see it, but everybody can see it if we all share it. And look, there's a lot of us out here figuring this out alone who do not have to. So stay active, stay engaged. Julien, Marion, signing out, saying remember to release it, be seen, don't hide. Peace out.